Hello, everybody, and welcome to my kitchen. I was here last week, but if you haven't seen me before, I'm Tracey Reed. I am a certified holistic nutritionist, cookbook author, instructor at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. And today I am going to show you how to use a very, very simple cookie recipe and to kind of just run with this recipe and create all kinds of really, really delicious cookies and really healthy cookies as well. So these cookies are great for an on-the-go snack if you need something just quick as you're heading out the door, or you get a little peckish mid-afternoon. It's lovely to have a cookie with a cup of tea. Now, I will also, as we wrap up today, I will also talk to you about the upcoming holiday season and discuss some really, really fun variations of these cookies that you can make through the holidays. So this recipe, as I've said, is really, really simple. If you've taken a look at it, it should have come in your email. You're probably asking yourself, like, Tracey, why are you even online doing this cooking class when these cookies are so simple to make? But it's because I just want to show you how diverse this recipe is, all the different ways you can make these cookies. And again, they're a healthy cookie. So this is just a lovely, lovely recipe to have on hand. And again, it is just ridiculously easy. And you can really use a lot of different things that you might already have in your own kitchens to make these cookies. So the base, I'll just talk a little bit about the base ingredients before we get started. So in the recipe, as it's outlined, we're going to use almond butter, but I will talk you through different variations, and I will also give you a variation if you are allergic to nuts or you have somebody in your life who is allergic to nuts. Don't worry, you can still use this recipe, and we will actually make a variation today that is nut-free. So the almond butter is the base of these cookies. Now, almonds are a really great source of magnesium, so they're rich in magnesium. This is a fundamentally important mineral that most people in the Western world are deficient in. And the reason we tend to be deficient in magnesium is because it is one of the nutrients that our bodies has a very high need for when we are stressed. Is there anybody who is not stressed in today's world? So I know certainly I've been dealing with a lot lately, and if you are dealing with a chronic health condition, that in itself is quite stressful. That's a physical stressor on the body, and then there's the whole emotional, mental side of that as well. So those responses in our body utilize a lot of magnesium. So having almond butter as a base for this is going to be a lovely source of magnesium. And nut butters are much, much easier to digest, are much easier on the GI tract, really, really well absorbed than whole nuts. So this is a really lovely way to get nuts, get the nutrients from nuts into your system in a way that is easily absorbed and utilized. So let's get started. I'm going to pop my camera down so you can see what I'm working with here. And sorry, I'm just going to adjust my computer a little bit. There we go. So this is the almond butter that I'm using. I'm trying to get the label facing you there. So this almond butter is a brand that you will see in most grocery stores. I was actually telling my mom this morning that I was going to be doing this cooking class, and she had no idea where to get almond butter. So this can be found in your local grocery store in the same section as you would find peanut butter. So if you've ever purchased peanut butter, just go to that same section of the grocery store and look for almond butter. And again, this brand, this is called Nuts to You Nut Butter. That's what it says on the lid. This is quite a common brand that you will find in most stores. So if you don't have this particular brand, that is okay as well. But basically, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. I'll try to get it right up to my camera. No, probably not. Bit of a glare. But this is just pure almonds. And this is what you want when you're looking for a nut butter, is a pure nut butter with no added ingredients. So I'm just going to give this a really quick stir because the oil, this often happens with nut butters. The oil has separated a little bit and come up to the top. So it's not too terribly bad, but oh, I'm losing some of the oil. Sorry, I'm just going to grab a cloth. I probably should have done this in advance. So we've given that a little bit of a mix. It doesn't have to be perfectly mixed. Now, I want to talk to you about my favorite cookies. So my very favorite cookies are, I love, love, love macadamia nuts. So I have started actually chopping a few macadamias here because these ones are quite large. So I just wanted to get a little bit of a head start on those. So the first cookies we're going to make are a macadamia nut white chocolate chip. So macadamia white chocolate cookie. And if the name of that is not enough to entice you, I will just tell you that these are lovely. Now, why would you want to use macadamia nuts as opposed to maybe something like a cashew, for example? So they both are very mild in taste. But macadamias have been very well researched for their monounsaturated fat content. So this is a fat that we know is heart healthy, is anti-inflammatory. And so for that reason, I do love macadamias. So they can be a little bit more expensive. So that is definitely a downside to them. I actually buy mine in bulk. And, maybe, Shane, I'm just going to pop a website into the chat. I can't remember if it's .ca or .com. I'm putting .ca. There's a company called Rancho Vignola. So it's a Canadian company, which is brilliant. And a small family-run business out of BC. And they sell nuts and seeds and dried fruit. And I love this company because they only sell fresh crop nuts. So they get this year's harvest and they sell just what they have that year. Anything that's left over, they donate. But I really, really do like getting fresh nuts and seeds because the oils go rancid in them. And a really good example of that is walnuts. When you go purchase walnuts, say for, carrot cake or baking muffins or whatever you might use walnuts for, you'll notice they taste a little bit bitter. And that is the oils going rancid. So it's really nice to get fresh nuts. The difference is phenomenal, especially for something like a walnut. And so we're now in mid-September. I'm doing this, if you're watching the recording, you might not be watching it right at the same time. But this company right now, I think until the end of September, does a wholesale sale. And you can get these nuts and seeds at wholesale cost. The little caveat there is that you have to purchase $500 or more, which I know is quite a lot. But if you get together with some neighbors or family members and do a big bulk purchase, it's a really, really great way to get quality ingredients at a very reduced rate. So I have no affiliation with them. I just wanted to let you know, if you do like using nuts and seeds in your baking or other cooking, this is a phenomenal, phenomenal place to get incredible quality that's very, very fresh. So That's where I have gotten these macadamia nuts from. Okay, that was a little outsourcing and little budgetary tip there. So again, if you are using a lot, great way to save and economize. I just throw what I'm not using into my freezer and pull them out as needed. So let's get started with making this first batch of cookies. So you will need a mixing bowl. You'll need some measuring cups. And a spatula is very, very helpful as well. So we're starting with our almond butter. And what I want to do is I'm actually going to make the full batch, and then I'm going to divide it in half and make 2 different flavors of cookies, just so you can again see some of these really fun and delicious variations that are possible with this simple recipe. Oh, there's actually so many variations I could make today. Okay, here we go. I'm going to scoop this almond butter into my measuring cup. Now, this is a pretty flexible recipe, which is actually quite unusual for baking. I don't know if anybody has heard the phrase that cooking is an art and baking is a science. So baking very often is very dependent on accurate measurements, but this recipe, I would say, is not. You don't have to be super accurate. Okay, so there's our first cup. I'm just going to measure the second one out over here. So this recipe, I've got 3 grown kids at home, and I can guarantee you that these cookies are not going to last very long at all. This is really a family favorite. Okay, so this jar has a little bit more than 2 cups in it of almond butter. So I'm just going to grab another dollop here. And there we go. That's about another cup. So again, I'm probably a couple of tablespoons over, but like I said, this one does not have to be super, super accurate. So that is our first ingredient. And so again, I'm just going to give this a quick little mix because some of that oil was a little bit separated. So there we go, ingredient number 1, very, very simple. Now, if your energy, your strength is maybe not optimal or where you'd like it to be, then getting the almond butter out of the jar, you might want some assistance or get somebody else to do that for you. Okay, that's almond butter. Now we need eggs, and I've got my eggs behind me. Eggs, ideally, when you're baking, should be at room temperature. So I set mine out this morning, but I'll be totally honest with you. I very often bake without my eggs at room temperature. So this particular recipe calls for 2 eggs. So those are going to go in there. And then the last ingredient is some honey. So 3/4 of a cup of honey. You could use a little bit more. You could use probably a cup. I, as a nutrition practitioner, don't really sweeten my food a lot. So I am quite used to having food that's a little bit less sweet. There's something, oh yeah, you can also use maple syrup. So maple syrup is another really, really lovely sweetener. So my family uses a lot of honey. This is the primary sweetener we use in our household. So I tend to buy big buckets. So I've got a nice local honey from a local farm. And we want 3/4 of a cup. So I happen to have a nice 3/4 cup measuring cup. So I'm just going to scoop right into my tub there for ease. And that is going to go in here as well. So let me tell you a little bit about the health benefits of honey as opposed to sugar. So one of the underlying factors of any chronic health condition is inflammation. And we know that sugar can be quite inflammatory. So we really don't want to be adding processed sugars into our diet. There are other highly refined foods like flours, that we use for making bread and pasta and muffins and things like that are also quite inflammatory because they impact your blood sugar so much. So honey is a little bit different than processed sugars because it does not have the same impact on your blood sugars. And that just is because honey is predominantly fructose, so the same type of sugar that we find in fruit, as opposed to glucose. And fructose can't go right into our bloodstream. Our bodies can't use it. So it actually has to be converted to glucose. So that kind of slows down the entry into our bloodstreams quite a bit. And then additionally, there are really great benefits to honey. It's antimicrobial, so it helps fight infections and things. It's got great enzymes. Unfortunately, by using it in baking, we're actually going to destroy those enzymes. So that will get destroyed with the heat. Oh, and that reminds me, always preheat your oven. I almost forgot that. You want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and everybody's oven is a little bit different. So my oven runs hot, so I've put it at 325 degrees. So I don't know if you can tell as I'm mixing this, but oddly enough, when I add the eggs and the honey, this almost seems to become a little bit thicker, which somehow in my mind is a bit counterintuitive, but that is what happens. Okay, so this is all beautifully mixed. So this is the foundation of our cookie recipe: almond butter, honey, and eggs. Really, really simple. Now there are two little add-ons that you could add. You certainly don't have to. But the first one would be a little pinch of salt. Now I like always to put a little pinch of salt into pretty much anything I cook. And the reason I do is because salt enhances the flavor of everything if you use it in the early stages of cooking. If you add it later, you get salty food. But if you're using it initially, it really brings out the flavors. The other thing you could add, again, if you want to, it's optional. I usually actually do not add a vanilla. I'm not going to add it today, but adding vanilla would be another very simple add-on to this recipe. Now, I personally like to use an alcohol-free vanilla. So this one that I have is not in an alcohol base. The vast majority of vanilla is in an alcohol base. Really, you're using very small amounts, so it's not that much of an issue at all. I just noticed I've got a bit of some honey at the top of my spoon, so I'm just going to get that scraped in. Okay, so I'm just going to use my egg bowl here for a minute to separate out about half of this so that I can show you the different variations that are super, super yummy and that I am really excited about. Okay, so we've got some of our batter set aside for later. Now, this is going to be our macadamia white chocolate chip cookie. If you look at the recipe, there are, it says optional under the 3 ingredients. So it says add in 1 cup of chocolate chips, dried fruit, nuts or seeds, or shredded coconut. And you can really be incredibly versatile. And I'm going to show you some that are not listed there as well. Now, because we've only got about half of our recipe here, I want to do half the amount of add-on. So that's going to be half a cup. So I've got my half, oh no, that's my 2/3, wrong one. There's my half cup measuring cup. So I like my macadamia nuts quite chunky and large, so I'm going to use these as they are, but you can certainly chop these up a little bit smaller if you'd like. And then, it's behind me, I have some white chocolate chips, and I'm going to highlight this particular brand. This again is in many, many grocery stores. So this brand, Enjoy Life, is free of all the common allergens. So if you have a dairy allergy, a gluten sensitivity or allergy, soy, I'm trying to think of what all the different allergens are, peanuts, mustard, egg, milk, right? There's a lot of different allergies that are common. This is actually considered to be an allergy-free product. So legally, like the government has, I think, 10 or 11 different foods to call yourself allergy-free that you have to be free of. So I really, really like this particular brand. If you don't have allergies or food sensitivities, then by all means, use any brand that you like. So these are mini chips that take up a lot less space than bigger ones. So I probably don't want to fill this right to the top just because they are going to be, you know what, this is almost done. So I'll just empty the last of that in there. So there we go. We've got our macadamias and our allergy-free white chocolate chips. So that's super easy. There's our add-ons. We're ready to go. Now I want to highlight one of my favorite kitchen utensils that maybe not everybody has in their kitchen. And it's these scoops. And I've only had these for a few years, but I absolutely have fallen in love with them. My oldest son originally decided he wanted to be a baker. He has since switched to HVAC. But when he started baking, he came home with a full set of these, and I'd never used them before, and now I can't live without them. So they have different sizes. This is like a little ice cream scoop, and this is the size I use for my cookies. So there's a number there. The numbers are really hard to see on mine, but this is a number 40, so that just indicates the size. It's about 2 tablespoons, and so I really, really like to use this for my cookies. I use these for making meatballs as well. I use these for making muffins. So I use a bigger one and scoop it out into my muffin tins. I find these are just quite fun. They're not a necessity, but I do find them to be very helpful in the kitchen. Now I have prepared a couple of baking sheets with parchment paper. I don't have a ton of room on my counter here. So with my handy dandy little scoop, my oven just beeped. It's ready to go. I just scoop these out. This again is just why this makes life so simple. These lovely little scoops. So I'm not going to get all of these out, but I do want to get some of these baked and in the oven so that you guys can see what they look like. Now there's a funny little thing with this recipe. Sometimes my cookies stay almost round, and other times they really spread. And I have yet to really determine what the significant difference is. Maybe it's just the temperature I had my ingredients at. But it doesn't matter if they're round or they spread. They are delicious any which way. Okay, so I'm going to get these guys into the oven, and they have a fairly fast baking time. So on the recipe, I have indicated 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 8 minutes, and then we'll check on them and see how they're doing. So timing, again, with ovens, depending on how hot your oven is, things can vary considerably. Now, our next version I'm going to set this bowl aside. It's going to be a lemon poppy seed cookie. And if you, you might be familiar with a lemon poppy seed loaf or a lemon poppy seed muffin. So this is a really lovely and fairly traditional flavor pairing. And yesterday I went to the grocery store to grab some lemons because I'm going to use lemon zest, so the peel. And when I got there, they did not have organic lemons. Now, I like to use organic when I'm using the peel because I don't want to be zesting all of those pesticides and different things into my baking. So I bought the conventional, and here's what I've done. Have a look. So I have put so I also got an orange. I probably won't be using it today, but I did want to talk to you about a lovely variation later on where you could use an orange. So I've got my 2 lemons in here, and this is just cold water with baking soda. So you would use about a teaspoon of baking soda to about 2 cups of water. And this is a very, very effective way to get the residue and the pesticides off of your fruit or your vegetables. And you want it to sit in there for about 15 minutes. So I prepared this in advance so that it would be ready to go. I'm going to drain this because I actually am going to use this bowl. Okay, so our little green bowl that we put our batter into is not quite sufficient in size. So I needed to empty this bowl. So this was the batter that we have already previously made, and we've done that other half as the macadamia white chocolate chip. And we're going to use this half to make a lemon poppy seed. Now, here's the tricky part, and I'll be honest with you, I'm guessing a little bit today. Obviously, I'm not going to use half a cup of poppy seed because, again, they're super, super tiny. It's going to be very, very different from adding half a cup of raisins, for example. So I'm just going to put a couple of tablespoons in, see how it looks, and go from there. And so again, this is the great thing with these add-ins. You kind of can do this a little bit to your own taste and preference. So I have my poppy seeds, and is it going to open for me? Oh, come on, bag. A little bit stuck there. So I'm going to start with 2 tablespoons and see how that goes. I love poppy seeds in baking. I feel like it's kind of a very European thing. And let me just grab my micro grater. So I used this last week in the stew recipe to grate garlic, but most of you probably know this micro grater as a tool for zesting lemons. So here we go. We're just going to get that outer layer. I can just smell that citrus. It is so lovely. I love using zest. It's just such a refreshing flavor. And we're not going to use the juice for this particular recipe simply because of the nut butter base, right? So that's kind of an oilier base. So we don't really want to put a liquid in there necessarily. Okay, so I've got all of the zest off, mostly this lemon. And then we'll save that lemon, maybe put it in some drinking water later on. So I'm just going to scrape off the last of that zest. Now, if you don't happen to have lemon on hand, you may have lemon extract in your, where's my mixing spoon? There it is. You may have lemon extract in your cupboard. I actually have a food grade essential oil in my cupboard that I also really love to use to get a lemony flavor into things. But we're just going to use this zest today. So I'm definitely thinking that I have enough poppy seed in there, just looking at it. And I can certainly smell the citrus, but I'm going to have a little taste. I think I'm going to zest my second lemon. So if you are doing this lemon poppy seed, or if you were doing another zest, and I'll talk you through what a couple of great options for that could be, then just go on your personal preference for flavor. I really love lemon. I just find it such a refreshing flavor. And you would want to use, I'm going to talk you through some different options instead of the almond butter today. But I think if you're using citrus, you would really probably want to use the almond butter as your base, simply because some of the other nut or seed butters do have a slightly stronger flavor that I think would completely overpower the citrus. So if you do want to do a citrusy note or have a citrusy note to your cookies, I would do the almond butter base. Okay, so we've got that all mixed up, and I'm going to grab my second prepared baking sheet, and we'll get some of these scooped out. Now, because the poppy seeds are not as chunky or not going to take up as much space in these cookies as a macadamia or white chocolate chip, we may not get as many cookies from this particular batch. So I'm just going to put 6 of these out. And then we're going to actually do something totally different with a different base to it. So that, oh, and there we go. 8 minutes is up on our first batch. So let me have a look at those. Okay, here they are after 8 minutes. I'm going to throw them in for another couple of minutes because they're still kind of gooey in the middle and they're just starting to brown. Okay, it's starting to smell really good in here. Did I tell you how healthy these cookies are? You can feel completely confident in eating these cookies that you're not going to I'm going to rephrase that. You can indulge in these cookies and not worry about the health implications. Okay, I'm going to reuse this bowl. So sorry, I have to juggle my batter a little bit here. So I'm going to put this back into the green bowl. And the next one we're going to make is really for those people who have allergies. So by the way, you would never be doing what I'm doing right now because I'm cross-contaminating my dishes. So if you have allergies, you would not be doing this. But I'm going to demonstrate now if somebody has, here, maybe I should talk to you face to face. If somebody has a nut allergy, you can still make these cookies. If somebody has an egg allergy or is vegan, so if you're vegan, don't use eggs, I'm also going to give you an option. So let's start with what we would use as a base if you have a nut allergy. So there are a variety of seed butters available on the market. This is what I like to use for baking these cookies, and this is a sunflower seed butter. So this particular one is by the same company as the almond butter, but this is a little bit harder to find. Almond butter you'll find in most grocery stores. Sunflower seed butter, you will likely have to visit your local health food store to get this. And our first batch of cookies is done. So I'm just going to grab these out of the oven. Okay, so that is what, oh, I forgot the timer. That is what these macadamia white chocolate cookies look like. Much too hot to eat now, and they would probably fall apart if I tried to get one off the cutting board. So we're going to leave these to cool as we make our other cookies. Okay, so for this sunflower seed version, I'm going to do a half-size recipe just so I can show you. Now, so that's going to be our nut butter replacement. We're going to use sunflower seed butter instead. Now, what do you do if you can't eat eggs, either because you have an allergy, a food sensitivity, or you're vegan? There are a variety of egg alternatives that work really, really well. You can create something called a flax seed egg. You could do a chia seed egg. And you can also buy egg replacements. There's a really nice one that is by Bob's Red Mill. So if you've ever seen Bob's Red Mill, his almond flour is found in a lot of grocery stores. He does, or his company, he has passed very, very sadly. But his company does a really nice egg replacement. It's a powdered version of some different starches. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to make a chia seed egg today to show you. It's very similar to making a flax seed egg. So the instructions I'm going to give for the chia seed egg would be exactly the same for a flax seed egg. So I'll talk you through both of them as I make the chia seed egg. So I buy my chia seeds in bulk, always a bit more economical. So I have them in this jar. So I'm going to need a little tiny bowl. I'm going to grab this little glass jar, will be perfect, and then you can see what it looks like. So to do one of these eggs, you would use a tablespoon of chia seed, or if you're doing a flax seed egg, you would want to buy ground flax seed. And you can get ground flax seed at most health food stores, or you can grind it yourself. If you have a coffee grinder, or some blenders will work. So in any case, I just have chia seeds today. I ran out of my ground flax seed. So I'm just going to put the 1 tablespoon into my little bowl or jar. And then we need 3 tablespoons of water. So I'm just going to grab those right here next to me. Okay, so that's in there, and we're going to let this sit for a few minutes. For those of you who have done this, you're going to be familiar with both chia or flax will do the same thing. They absorb a lot of the water and it becomes quite gelatinous. So we're going to let that sit and become gelatinous. And it's that gelatinous aspect that makes for a good egg. So it's very good at binding and holding our cookies together. The difference with one of these eggs versus a chicken egg is that it doesn't add fluffiness to the texture. So you will get a slight texture difference. In these cookies, it's not going to be very significant, but for if you were doing muffins, for example, or a loaf or something else, a flaxseed egg or a chia seed egg or any of the other egg alternatives that exist on the market that are commercially prepared, they will not give you that light, fluffy texture that we associate with eggs. So that is one difference you need to be aware of. All right, so I am going to, oh, sorry, I left the seal on here, not making it very easy for myself to get the lid off. So this also is a little bit separate. Where did I put my mixing spoon? There it is. So I'm just going to do half size of this today. So I am just going to use my, again, I'm cross-contaminating here. I'm using my 1 cup measuring cup. Still has a bit of almond butter in it. So I would not be doing this certainly in a commercial kitchen. But I'm going to put 1 cup of the sesame seed butter in. So sunflower seed butter does have a stronger flavor than almond butter does. And so we want to be mindful of that, and we want to use add-ons that are going to pair well with our sunflower seeds, or also have quite a strong flavor to go with it. So a cookie that I really love that does have quite a nice strong flavor is a ginger cookie. So that's what I'm going to make for you today. So again, this is just a half recipe that I'm making. So I've got 1 cup of the sunflower seed butter, and I'll set that aside. And I'm going to get the honey measured out and mixed in. So I have to guess here a little bit. So 3/4 of a cup is our full recipe. So I'm just going to guesstimate here and fill this halfway. Again, in this particular recipe, the science of baking is not necessarily quite as applicable as with some other recipes. So I've just told you that I really love ginger cookies, so that's the variation I'm going to be making. But some other flavors that I think would be really lovely with this, if you have a pumpkin pie spice mix in your cupboard, I think that would be a lovely addition as well. And with pumpkin pie spice, you could also put raisins in here, or you could put pumpkin seeds in there to kind of continue on that pumpkin theme. So those would also, I think, be some really nice flavors, right? A pumpkin pie spice mix, and then possibly adding raisins or pumpkin seeds to that. So our honey's mixed in, and I don't know if you guys can even see that, but you can see that's become quite gelatinous. My chia seed mix is just kind of sticking there in the bottom of this little dish. So we're going to get that in there. Now you will have a little extra seedy crunch in here because of the chia seeds. So if you don't particularly like that texture, then I would do a flax seed egg instead, where you're grinding up that flax seed. So this version, again, this is nut-free. So for anybody who has nut allergies or nut sensitivities, this is also vegan. So we've replaced our egg with a chia seed egg. Now you could do ginger powder, right? Really easy to find in stores. I do like to use ginger root. I almost always have some ginger root in my kitchen. And this is, I can already smell it. Lovely. This is another nice flavoring where I use my micro grater. Now, a lot of chefs will take the skin off And I never do. I find it's not really necessary, and it saves me a lot of time and effort. So I'm going to grate this piece of ginger into my cookies for a lovely ginger cookie. Now you could add other spices to this in addition to just the ginger. So that could be something like nutmeg or cinnamon. Whoops, I lost a piece of my ginger in there. Whatever strikes your fancy and is something that you enjoy. So I got that piece done, and then I dropped another little section. I'll get that grated in. So again, you don't have to have the fresh ginger root. It does smell very, very lovely. You could use powdered ginger very, very easily in this. And you would just be using less than if you're using fresh. So typically you would use about a third of the amount. And again, like I haven't really measured this. Oh, but you know what? I am going to add a little bit of salt. Like I said, I always like to add a little bit of salt because it brings out the flavor of all of your other ingredients. So this is now a very simple, nut-free, egg-free version of this cookie. So I'm going to get a few of these onto the baking pan, and hopefully we'll have these two variations baked before our time is up so you can see what they look like. And then I'm going to talk you through another variation and also talk you through other possibilities for the upcoming holiday season. This is just limitless. There's so much you can do, and it's just really fun to play around with this recipe in the kitchen. So my family is going to be absolutely stoked to come home today and have all of these different variations available. Okay, yes. So this has cooled off. I'm able to touch this pan now. And these cookies are so delicious. So I'm going to break this one apart. And it looks just like a classic flour-based cookie, but this is an almond butter-based cookie. And I just have to take a bite. It's still a little soft and chewy. Delicious. I need a bit of water. These cookies, they will be a softer, chewier cookie. They're not going to be a crunchy cookie. And because they have this nut butter base, once they have baked and cooled, if they don't get eaten right away, they do need to be stored in the fridge. They freeze well, so you can also, again, on days where you have energy and you feel like you can get up and be in the kitchen, these are great to make and get into the freezer, especially if you have holiday visits and things coming up. Okay, so we have made, with the almond butter, we've done a macadamia white chocolate version, and we did a lemon poppy seed version. And then we've made our sunflower seed butter with ginger as our nut-free, egg-free version. You can make any of these egg-free, so that's very, very simple to do. I want to talk to you a little bit about everybody's favorite peanut butter. Now, you can use peanut butter in this recipe, so I want to talk you through peanut butter and some of the health implications of peanut butter that are different from an almond butter or a sunflower seed butter. So a peanut, despite having the name nut, is actually not a nut. A peanut is a legume. And for those of you who watch the stew making recipe video, we talked about legumes and their lectin content and how lectins contribute to leaky gut, and leaky gut contributes to leaky barrier tissue. And if you have pulmonary fibrosis, you will have leaky lung tissue. So I'm a little bit cautious around using peanut butter. Also, I'm cautious about peanut butter because peanuts develop something called aflatoxin. And this is a mold-derived toxin. So peanuts develop this type of mold, or develop mold that develops this type of mycotoxin. And it's not really a visible mold, so you wouldn't really know that it was there. The exception is Valencia peanuts. So Valencia peanuts are a certain type of peanut that's grown, and apparently Valencia peanuts do not develop this mold or the aflatoxins. So in Canada, in the States, I have found more brands that utilize the Valencia peanuts specifically. In Canada, Kirkland brand does the Valencia peanuts. I'm in Calgary, and there's a small local peanut butter producer. I've talked to the owner, and they specifically source, they don't use the Valencia peanuts, but they do source peanuts that are free of aflatoxins. So there's a couple of different ways to find peanut butter that would not have that aflatoxin component. So between the lectins and the aflatoxins, those are my concerns with peanut butter. But who doesn't love peanut butter and chocolate together, right? Classic combination. So you could make this recipe using peanut butter instead of almond butter. And then, of course, as I said, perfect pairing is with chocolate. So Enjoy Life, the same company where I use the white chocolate chips for those macadamia white chocolate cookies, they also do chocolate chips. And what I have here is chocolate chunks. So you have a couple of options. Again, if you have any allergies or food sensitivities, this is the brand I would recommend using. So you can do a peanut butter, you could do a plain peanut butter cookie if that's what you love. Or you could do a peanut butter chocolate chip cookie. That is certainly my kids' favorite, I think. So that is another variation that you could possibly make. Now, I know we have Thanksgiving coming up soon, and then shortly after that, we're into December, which is that holiday season, lots of different holidays to celebrate. And maybe you're looking for some unique holiday flavors that are scrumptious, delicious. So you could do, I washed my orange, I'm not making this version today, but you could also, instead of a lemon zest, do an orange zest with pistachios. Yum. So that would be an option. I also, I love pecans. So you could, earlier I talked about doing maybe a pumpkin pie spice mix as a base for a cookie, but imagine pumpkin pie spice mix with pecans, or maybe just a cinnamon with pecans. That would be another really, really lovely combination. If you like kind of tropical flavors, you could do a lime zest with some shredded coconut. So that would be a really lovely combination as well. What else have I got? Oh, here's another really lovely one. I love hazelnuts. I really, really like hazelnuts. So you could do hazelnut and chocolate chip as well. That's a really nice, think that sort of Nutella kind of combination of chocolate and hazelnuts. And yeah, so I think those would be some lovely combinations. And then there's just the classics, right? Raisin cookie, you could certainly put some raisins in there. Cranberries are also really lovely around the holiday season. So cranberries and pistachios, I think if you're looking for that traditional North American red and green that we associate with the holiday season, cranberries and pistachios would be really, really lovely for that. And I forgot to add, I had totally, to my ginger cookies, I completely forgot to add, I have at the ready some candied ginger. And this, I love this stuff. It's so yummy. But what I had meant to do and forgot to do, I was going to slice these pieces up and put a slice on top of each cookie to give it that little extra ginger zing. So this is a really, really nice thing to add to these cookies as well. So we've got 1.5 minutes left. So we'll just wait until those ones are out so you can see those as well. So I want to recap really quickly here what we've done. We've created a cookie today that has 3 ingredients at its base. So a nut butter or a seed butter if you don't tolerate nut butters, an egg or an egg replacement. And then today I used honey, but you can also use maple syrup. So that's really, really simple foundation to our cookies. And then you can play around with all of these delicious flavors. I will tell you, as much as I love hazelnuts, hazelnut butter does not work in this recipe. It's not as thick as other nut butters, and so it just doesn't work. The cookies just really, really spread out. So I know because, of course, I've tried this. As I mentioned, I love hazelnuts, but hazelnut butter, if it's available in your local health food store, would not work for this recipe. Cashew butter does work for this recipe. So if that's something you can find in your area, that is another option. And cashews have that mild, really mild flavor. So I like to use almond butter because it is readily available. And then for people who don't do nuts, can't do nuts, I like the sunflower seed butter. So those two, I know they're tried, tested, and true, and they work really well. So my timer has just gone. Oh, goodness. Okay, this is an unexpected unexpected result. So if you can see on this side, oh, let me tip this, sorry. On this side is our poppy seed lemon cookies, and they look very much like the macadamia white chocolate cookies. These are the sunflower seed ones over here, and usually I don't have them spread as much. So there's a few of them here that have run together. So this particular batch did spread a little bit more. And so we've got slightly flatter cookies. So when I do up the rest, I'm going to have to put them further apart. They're still going to taste delicious. So I hope that gives you a lot of things to consider playing with, having fun with in your kitchen when you're baking with Thanksgiving coming up and then the holiday season.